Barry, was that a penalty? The one on Cavani right at the end, where Ben's been in touch to say a lot of people saying Cavani was fouled, but it seems to me that he slowed down to get the contact and the ref made a correct, brave decision. What do you reckon?
I thought it was a penalty. Seydou on Cavani, I thought it was a stupid challenge, and I thought he was very lucky to get away with it. And I'm not sure how Cavani slowing down to draw the foul makes it any less of a foul. I mean, there was it's still a foul, no matter what speed you're going at, or if you're trying to draw it from the defender. So yeah, I thought it was unquestionably a penalty, and I can understand the frustration of the Uruguayan players at the end of the game when they were basically chasing the ref down the tunnel, and he was just brandishing yellow cards willy-nilly. I'd be interested to see if he actually got a record of who he showed them to, so he could make it included in his report. But yeah, it was definitely a penalty, and it was strange that the lads in VAR HQ seemed to, move on so quickly and didn't at least get the ref to go and have a look at his pitch side monitor. I'm sure they reviewed it, but they came to the wrong conclusion as far as I'm concerned.
I'm guessing the referee's probably seen that there was contact, but doesn't believe it was like, he thought legs just came together or whatever. I don't know. I'll hold my hands up. VAR has basically exposed me for not knowing the laws of the game. I just used to play it. You know what I mean? I used to get told when I made an offense, not knowing which one it was myself. And, when you get to the point whereby you think that the deciding moment for your World Cup was a penalty that wasn't given, when you had basically the cards all in your hand, like, yeah, you can tell they're frustrated. Like, that's the thing. It wasn't the 10 minutes of 7v4s in your favor when you're doing these counterattacks and you got Cavani crossing it for Quartes. Did they draw that up on the tactics board? I'd like to think that they didn't. So yeah, that decision, they can say it's wrong and so on, but their tournament was done before that moment. And if they needed to rely upon a decision being given to them like that to give themselves the chance, then, take a real good look at yourself and don't feel outraged because, you kind of did this to yourself, you could say.
Do you think South Korea deserved to go through? It feels like actually it was quite an even group. And I wondered, out of the big teams, in inverted commas, Portugal might be the ones that struggle, and they've probably done quite well, actually, to get through. And Uruguay and Ghana could have got through on a sort of different set of days.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's the advantage of playing the team that's already qualified to get through. We saw with Tunisia the other day, they came pretty close to getting through after being a second string France team. Although, yeah, I mean, Portugal was pretty much a second string team today with Ronaldo in it, of course. But yeah, I think Ghana were the team that should feel particularly annoyed with themselves, I think, because it was in their hands today, especially, with the penalty as well at the start. And if AU had stuck that away and banished the ghosts of 2010 with that goal, I was in that at the game back then in South Africa, and it's a moment that just will haunt Ghana, and it will continue to haunt them now because of that miss. It's really quite annoying, actually, because I think if they scored that, I think who knows, they might not have gone on to win, but they'd have been in a really strong position. But South Korea are a good team as well, and they just took advantage of Portugal and got the win they deserved.
Barry, so I mean, that penalty was a sort of a microcosm of that game, with the amount of shithousery, and there's a VAR decision, they wait for ages, the penalty's given, then you've got the sort of Ghanaians protecting the penalty spot. I don't know if I've seen that before. It's extraordinary that every Uruguayan having a go to slow it down, and then Andre Ayew, I mean, it was an absolutely terrible penalty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was shockingly bad. I presume the gravity of the situation got to him. It was feebly struck. The run-up had no conviction, feebly struck, nowhere near the corner, and it was a very easy save for the Uruguayan keeper, really. He could have thrown his hat on it, as they say.
Paolo says, in the School of Football Drama was this Ghana-Uruguay, written by Tom Stoppard, 90-plus minutes of relentless suffering for all 22 players. And in the end, it means absolutely nothing. Dan says, can we agree Uruguay-Ghana is the biggest derby in world football? 7,327 kilometres. It felt, Nedum, like it was going to explode at any time. There was there was sort of the odd stamp. There was some. It was really sort of, it could have been, it was on a knife edge, I thought, from really getting out of hand.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it is, it is a derby now, isn't it? Because I'm sure the Uruguayans will get over this very, very quickly. The Ghanaians going to the corner, being 2-0 down. There'll be nothing to even speak of the next time they speak. I'm sure the World Cups don't matter to any of these teams. Definitely not Uruguay. I'm sure their players weren't crying about it. But yeah, it's a good tie, and it just continues just that little bit further, and it was very enjoyable. And I'll hold my hands up and say I've got the real mixed emotions, because being somebody who was born in Nigeria, who feels very Nigerian, to know that Ghana are the team that knocked out Nigeria and trying to qualify for the tournament, and then seeing Ghana potentially go through to the round of 16, I'm like, do I like this? Do I not like this? Or do I just accept it? So I choose to accept it and just know Nigeria will be back.
Yeah, it's quite interesting you say that name, because I think from here we sort of have quite a, I don't know if patronise is the right word, but we sort of lump African football together. Go, oh, this is great. There are 3 African teams through, but like there are obviously huge rivalries within that continent, right?
Yeah, 100%. And just think of it this way: if somebody came up to you from elsewhere and said, "Oh, it must be great for all you British teams to be doing so well together," are you rooting for? The Irish as well. They must love you guys. I hope you're all rooting for each other to do so well. No, absolutely not. That's not a thing, never will be a thing, and it needs to be put in the bin. And that thing about Nigeria and Ghana, there may be some out there that say, fine, we support the West African sort of nations, but when somebody's there at your expense, it's very hard to do. And I'm not going to say I'm the one that's bitter about it.
Sure.
But someone else might say I'm bitter about it, but I'm not going to say it myself.
Yeah, I noticed that the pile-on from Nigeria Twitter didn't take long. It was about a couple of minutes, and then they were off.
Later, we do have to talk about Luis Suárez, right? Because he was sort of pivotal to every bit of this game. He looks a bit like a Vets player to me. Like, he's really quite slow, but yet set up both goals. I mean, he was. The first one, obviously, his shot was parried, and the second one is a lovely touch.
Yes.
And then all the pictures afterwards will be of him sitting on the bench, not being able to affect things.
Yes, that's exactly right. And the assist, well, we're in this sort of like fantasy football era where someone having a shot that gets saved leads to an assist. He wasn't trying to assist anybody, but we'll give him one. But then the second one was a nice bit of play that led to a great finish as well. And you can see, as he was walking off the field, he was applauding the crowd, and you could see there was a real sense of appreciation. Maybe there was a hint from the crowd that, the job was done, but they really do appreciate him for what he's done for the nation. And I think the bigger conversation about him now is, like, because you mentioned the Vets player thing, people talking about how he might never play another game of football again. Like, this could literally be the end of his career. And that is an interesting spot for him to be in. But when you look at the fact that people are saying that maybe he can't play 90 minutes anymore, can you really have a long career from that point when that is the case? I think that should essentially be a foundation. Can a player finish a game? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then should you really be starting games? So it's a very, very tough spot for him to be in. You can see that, as was the case with Lukaku and stuff yesterday. I know we can poke fun at them, but I like the people who actually feel a level of emotion about disappointment, because it shows that they really wanted to be there. And that's probably the closest connection to the fans and people of that nation, because you feel the same sort of disappointment, except they feel a slightly different version of it because they've been involved in the thing that's led to the sadness. And in some ways, from an emotional standpoint, there are lots of people who say Suárez is a nice guy who know him, but I don't know him, so I can't say that too much. But yeah, the pain of going out when that football is everything to you, playing for your nation is everything to you, because you can have a club side, but they can move on from you. But for him, Uruguay is his everything. So for it to go out the way that he did, and him to be helpless watching it from the sideline, for some, that's a dream to see him suffer. But for others, they feel real sympathy, because that is a very tough spot to be in.
If you can't play 90 minutes, Southern Amateur League Vets, squad of 17, rolling subs.
I play an hour, that's it. If he wants to come down and play with me somewhere in North Manchester, he's more than welcome. How about that?